Hello, hello. I don't know if you can hear the rainstorm outside, but it is raining like crazy here in South Alabama. So instead of being out in my pretty yard, I am inside my pretty house. Maybe you can see my two favorite paintings I've done. The cream colored wolf is named Nesta, and the dark colored wolf is named Truman. I did these paintings in college, so just please keep that in mind. I did them over 20 years ago. um, but in my X-Files werewolf AU, Nesta and Truman are two characters. They're actually the biological parents of the main character. If you follow along my X-Files werewolf AU fic, it's on AO3. It's under Dead Raccoons 13 if you want to check it out. So today, I took a poll on Twitter, and we are going to be talking about probably in my top 5 X-Files episode list, Tithonus. It's one of the few X-Files episodes that when I watch it, I have to sleep with the lights on. I lost a bet to my 7-year-old daughter, and I have to do the vlog in her Cat Noir mask. So please enjoy that. My 7-year-old is a ham. Today I am drinking Seagram's ginger ale with a shot of Jack Daniel's Fireball whiskey. Always a good additive to have around. If you want me to sponsor your product, alcoholic or non, I will happily do it. I'm looking for a sponsor. I love making these videos, and I'd love to make money doing it. So if you want me to advertise for your whiskey or your goat soap or whatever the hell you make, please hit me up. I will happily sponsor you. So, or I will happily advertise your product, I should say. Tithonus is a season 6 episode, and it's one of those sweet, sweet X-Files episodes that discusses probably my favorite semi-canonical thing, and that is Dana Scully's immortality. Our bitch is gonna live forever. That she is not going to die. So, in Tithonus, the opening, you see this woman. She's pushing this like mail cart in this large building in New York City. And this creepy old man is following her. And you know how I said in Unruhe, all of my anxieties of strange men are triggered. Tithonus does it too. If you are a woman or a girl, you probably know the feeling of being followed by a strange man. There is few things scarier you will encounter. Now this old man who's following her, he goes by a lot of alias names, and frankly, I cannot remember them. So I am going to call him Resting Old Man Face. You've heard of Resting Bitch Face? Just wait till you see Resting Old Man Face. I know the joke's been made about many celebrities. Tommy Lee Jones is one of them. They say he was just born an old man. And that joke is made several times in this episode, so that's what I'm calling it. I am calling this episode Resting Old Man Face. So Resting Old Man Face is following this poor young woman, and I feel so sorry for her. When he stops following her, she just visibly relaxes, and then she dies. Fuck me. This show kills women. It kills and torments women. The death scenes in this episode, it's written by Vince Gilligan, by the way, who wrote many of the best X-Files episodes and went on to create a little show you might have heard of. It's called Breaking Bad. And the death scenes in this episode fucking hit. I've always said I love when the X-Files fully leans into horror, and this episode very much does that. The scene where you hear the elevator shaft breaks and the elevator falls down the shaft, and just hearing them scream as that elevator comes down, it is some scary shit. And it crashes, everyone dies in the elevator, and Resting Old Man Face reappears. Prior to this, you saw things from his perspective, and all of these people were in shades of grayscale, which meant they were about to die. He can tell when people are going to die, and he takes their pictures as they're dying, and I have feelings about this man, which I'm going to discuss in a little bit. Spoiler, I side very heavily with Dr. Dana Scully's opinion of this old motherfucker. I've never tried Seagram's ginger ale with Fireball whiskey before. It's pretty good. So, you see the title sequence, and then you see Fox Mulder and Dana Scully, and our babies are grounded. That's right. The X-Files has been closed down. If you're watching at home, please take a drink. I'll take a drink too every time the X-Files is closed down. Cheers. They're on the shit detail, like doing background checks and what have you. Mulder's just fucking around. One thing I really love about every time the X-Files get shut down, Mulder and Scully approach it very differently. Like, Mulder's like, this is a shit job. He's gonna do the bare minimum, you know? And Scully actually puts effort into it because she realizes, like, yeah, this is important work I'm doing. It's not the work I would prefer, but I'm gonna do my best. And you know what? I admire our girl for that. It definitely shows the difference in their personalities. When Mulder doesn't get what he wants, he just throws a hissy fit. And then our new dad, Kirsch, calls Scully into his office. She gets called into the principal's office. Mulder shouts at her, like, bring your toilet brush. She's going to have you cleaning toilet bowls. I kind of like Mulder in this episode. And I think the reason why is because he's not in it very much. I don't like Mulder anyway. But season 6 Mulder, if someone pushed him in front of a bus, I would not give a shit, okay? Season 6 Mulder is a piece of garbage. All right. But in this episode, he's pretty good. And I think if I can close my eyes and forget the rest of season 6 and how he treats his lady in the rest of season 6, I can kind of enjoy it. So Scully goes to see our new dad, Kirsch. Kirsch is a motherfucker. I hate Kirsch. You hate Kirsch. He's one of those characters that's just so much fun to hate. No slight against the actor, James Pickens Jr., because he's fantastic. I just love to hate Kirsch. He's a motherfucker. And we are introduced to Peyton Ritter. There's a lot of parallels in this episode with other X-Files episodes. Squeeze is one. And Peyton Ritter kind of takes the role of Colton, Agent Colton from Squeeze. And at first, okay, I'm going to talk about Peyton in a little bit. Right now, he just seems like this really earnest agent. He wants to solve these murders, which are pretty spooky. There are crime scene photos, and they are taken like a good bit before the crime scene is investigated. And that's pretty fucking suspicious. Don't know why, don't know why this wasn't discovered before. This has been going on since the 1920s by this particular photographer. Anyway, good job, Ritter, picking that up, man, for plot purposes. And then Kirsch wants to talk to his stepdaughter, so he makes Peyton leave. And okay, I hate Kirsch, you hate Kirsch, but he does bring up an interesting point. Like, throughout the show, especially in the earlier seasons, you see people talk about Mulder, and they're like, you have your whole life ahead of you, and you had such a promising career, and you're just throwing it all away. And few people say that about Scully. And that pisses me off because, okay, Kirsch calls Mulder a lost cause, and I don't like Kirsch, but he has Mulder's number, and I love it. And yeah, Mulder's a lost cause. Mulder has been a lost cause for years. Like, even in season 1, it's like, there's no bringing him back. Like, he's going to be in the basement office or off chasing this stupid quest for the rest of his life, you know, because Mulder's an addict. I'll get into that in just a little bit. But Scully is a esteemed doctor and a scientist and a pathologist, like, and a fantastic agent who's actually good at her job, unlike some other people we could name, Fox Mulder. Like, yes, she does have a promising life ahead of her, and it's, like, very heartbreaking to see someone point that out and say, why are you throwing your life away for this man who, frankly, puts his quest before you? And the reason is because she's in love with him. Oh, Dana Scully, you could do so much better, girl. Like, the story of the X-Files. And it's always really cool to see someone point that out. And Scully's like, I'll go get Agent Mulder. And Kirsch's just like, nah, baby. Mulder's not going on this one. Am I a bad person to say I love how Kirsch, like, calls Mulder and Scully out on their bullshit the way Skinner never did? So Scully's like, you're not my real dad. And she, like, huffs off. So then Mulder meets her new boyfriend, Peyton. And I am watching season 1 of BoJack Horseman. In this episode, Mulder is very much the Mr. Peanut Butter to Scully's Diane. If you watch BoJack Horseman, you'll get that reference. So Mulder acts like a little kick dog throughout this entire episode. He's like, oh my God, is she finally going to leave me? You know? So I'm like, God, Mulder, calm down. She's going on an investigation with another agent. She's not, like, marrying him. But then, like, right before they leave, he's, like, meeting Peyton Ritter, and Scully's like, well, we better get going. And then Peyton looks at Mulder and has this little smirk, and he's like, off to New York. And he's like, yeah, I'm going on a date with your girl. And Mulder's like, has this panic look. He's like, oh my God, no. And I think, I mean, Peyton sadly turns out to be a piece of shit because, the writing in the show, like, no one can commit to anything. No writer can commit to anything in the show, not even Vince Gilligan. Which I don't think is his fault. I mean, we all know who the showrunner was, and it wasn't Vince Gilligan, unfortunately. Like, but I think, like, what if Scully had married Peyton? Let's just say. Think of how much happier her life would have been. Her son, William, like, right now, he would be throwing footballs with Peyton right now. Like, that's what he'd be doing. Like, yeah, he would be happy. That would be a happy family, and Mulder could, like, come visit, but he wouldn't be allowed to, like, take William anywhere. I wouldn't trust Fox Mulder with my cat, let alone my child. I get to New York City. They're talking to this cop. And, about this photographer, resting old man face. And, the photographer's like, yeah, he's one of the, 10,000 people that have a license to piss people off. And I'm brought back to my, excuse me, almost decade of being a small town photojournalist. And I'm like, yeah, that pretty much describes the job. You have a license to piss people off. They're like, okay, they're like sussing this old dude out. And then you see this kid, and he has like expensive light up sneakers, no less. He's being chased by this thug. During the 90s, for all you babies out there, there was this like scare. There was like this scare going around. Oh, hey, you can see all my pictures. I don't know if you can see it well, but the one at the top is a painting of Pele, the goddess of volcanoes. That's like a rare flower we encountered in our time in Birmingham. This one is a picture of my first 2 rabbits by my best friend Erica. And this is a cross-stitch a lady did for our home. It says Scarborough, established 2010. And those are my babies' day camp awards. Oh, you're getting a tour of my home. And there's Luminaire! Hey, there he is. There's our favorite Jerry Orbach candlestick. Jerry Orbach, who I love more than most dead relatives. During the 90s, there was this thing where people would hunt you down for your sneakers. And hey, the Harbutt kids, me and my brothers, we were always safe because we couldn't afford expensive shoes. Like, people would kill us to get our shoes off their carpet, pretty much. Growing up poor, it was fun. Actually, it wasn't. It was terrible. So, this guy hunts this kid down. Again, just brutal murders in this episode. He stabs him. And, oh no, he sees a flash. It's resting old man face taking a picture of him murder this kid from the balcony. And the guy, like, hunts resting old man face down and stabs him. And then he's dead for a few minutes. And then you see his hand come up and pull the knife out of his back. And bump, ba, 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 he's immortal. Hey, I know someone else who's immortal on this show. I wonder if that will play into the plot at any rate. So, excuse me. They, are investigating this crime. And, they connect it to this old man. They believe that he was the one who killed the kid. They bring him in to interrogate him. And, this actor who plays the old man, he's good. Like, holy shit. He's good. I think I just have to put up with David Duchovny's acting so much when I watch The X-Files. Always a good day to shit on David Duchovny's acting. That when you see an actual, like, talented male actor, it's like a treat. It's like a really nice treat. Like, seeing someone, like, on the same level as Jillian is a treat. So, they look at his back, and he has these horrific stab wounds in his back. And then, Peyton, who up to this point was just a really good guy, just an earnest agent wanting to solve these crimes, turns into a piece of shit, which pisses me off. Like, this character had so much potential. First of all, Mulder and Scully need allies in the FBI, okay? They have so many enemies in the FBI, pretty much because Mulder pisses them off. And, like, they could have taken Peyton in a really interesting direction. In a similar way, they could have taken Spender in an interesting direction instead of just killing him off in the middle of season 6. Some spoilers, I guess. Like, and then they just turn him into a piece of shit. He's like Colton in Squeeze, you know. Which is a pretty good, interesting parallel. Like, Scully's like, you're just trying to, like, get this old man on this murder he didn't commit. And Peyton is like, isn't that what you want? And Scully's like, I want the truth. And that very much harkens back to her declaration in Squeeze, where Colton is like, whose side are you on? And Scully's like, the victims. And yeah. Excuse me. But it's also interesting to see, like, Scully very much accepting her role as the believer. And I say accepting because Scully is the believer in the X-Files. And Mulder is the true skeptic. They just deny those roles for so long. Like, and you'll see other things in this episode that kind of see her gradual, like, accepting of that role. I know a lot of people say, like, in season 8, when she becomes she's in that believer role and Doggett is in the skeptic role, a lot of people are like, well, this is OOC for Scully. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like, these seeds have been here from the beginning because Scully's always been the believer. It's just been her accepting that role, which I think is pretty cool. So, like, they're staking out this old man's house. And Scully sees him taking a picture of her. What a creep. And there is a scene later on where I'll get to it. It's pretty funny out of context. The old man says something about taking her picture from the balcony. Scully confronts him and she's like, hey, look, motherfucker, I'm not going to leave you alone until you tell me what the fuck is up. And this old man knows a queen when he sees one. And he's like, come take a ride with me. And I'm like, Scully, don't do that, baby. And then she takes a ride with him. This episode has a lot of callbacks to Chinga, where Mulder and Scully are separated. And I love to see Scully on her own solving a case. Like, that's cool. I love to see her running around being a bad bitch and, like, kicking all kind of ass without Mulder. Because with Mulder, she can't put her whole energy into solving a mystery because she has to babysit this man-child. And it's great just seeing her, like, do it on her own. But, of course, Mulder's having separation anxiety like a goddamn puppy. So, he keeps calling her. And unlike Chinga, where he's just, like, horny and is, like, pestering her, he actually does try to help her. Like I said, like, Mulder's okay in this episode. He's okay. I like him in this episode. I like to, like I said, close my eyes and forget the rest of season 6 existed, where he's just a piece of shit. So, like, they see this woman, and it's implied that she is a sex worker, because this show fucking loves to torment sex workers. It has a hate boner for them. And it's terrible. It's just so gross. Like, oh my God. Anyway, the old man, like, looks at the woman and he's like, she's gonna die. And, Scully's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he's like, I don't know when she's gonna die. I just know she's gonna die because he has a grayscale filter, I guess. Which is it's a pretty interesting way to tell, like, if somebody's going to die. Like, they have this grayscale filter from his perspective. Scully is disgusted by this man. And first of all, this is a great parallel to Clyde Bruckman's Final Repose. It's pretty interesting, these characters that kind of see the future. They do it like Clyde Bruckman, this old man, does it through sheer force of will. Like, the reason he has this superpower is he just knows what to look for. And that's it. Like, he doesn't have this magical power. It's just like, I've been doing this for so long. I know when people are going to, you know, kick the bucket. So, Scully is appalled. Again, it's interesting to see her role as a doctor. And just as a compassionate human being. She's so compassionate. Played upon, and like, she cannot wrap her head around this man, like how he will stand by even if there isn't a damn thing that can be done, and watch this innocent woman be molested and murdered. Scully's like, fuck no. She gets out of the car. She, like, this man who is assaulting this sex worker, this is one of the funniest scenes in the whole series. It's unintentional, and we love some unintentional comedy in the X-Files. She, like, grabs this guy who's, like, fucking twice her size and ties him up, and he's like, where'd you come from, Red? And she just pops him on the cheek. She's like, hush. She's like a little cat. She's like, stop that. It's adorable. And then she turns to the woman and she's like, hey, you okay? And the woman's like, I'm out. Walks in front of a semi-truck and gets killed. Which, I have some questions. Like, this woman lives in the middle of New York City, and she's just gonna, like, walk in front of a semi-truck. I mean, I don't understand it. Anyway, the woman dies, and Scully's like, oh my god, the old man was right. And the old man fucking ditches her, which is a dick move, okay? So then we see Mulder calling Scully because he's so afraid she's eloped with Peyton. And I'm like, yeah, Mulder, treat your lady better, and you wouldn't have these worries, I guess. So he's like telling her, hey, this old man, like, and it's great to see Mulder like actually profiling, actually doing his job as an investigator. Like, it's so rare. I love to see it. It's usually Scully doing all the fucking work. It's really good to see Scully going off and kicking the ass and seeing Mulder like hanging back and like being her support. That's fucking cool. He's like Wade and Kim Possible. So for all of you Gen Xers and millennials out there who watched Kim Possible, you'll get that reference. So was Wade voiced by Taj Mowry from Smart Guy? I think he was. Anyway, as another one, as another deep cut. I wonder where Taj Mowry is. He was a cool guy. He was the little brother of Tia and Tamara from Sister Sister. Is that right? Yeah, sure he was. Sure. Oh, back to 20 Degrees from BoJack Horseman. Mr. Peanut Butter is in this show that's very much like Sister Sister. It's called Mr. Peanut Butter's House, and the two twin girls are named Zoe and Zelda. They're very much like Tia and Tamara from Sister Sister. If you grew up in the 90s, you probably watched Sister Sister. Anyway, this is not a video review about the 90s TGIF sitcom Sister Sister, which was actually a pretty fucking awesome show. This is about the X-Files season 6. So Mulder's like, hey, resting old man face, he is fucking immortal. And he's like, he's been kicking around since the 1920s under various aliases. There is this really cute scene between Scully and Peyton, and they're looking at these files of resting old man face, and it's like every photo of him is the same photo. And then there's one like from 1987, and he just has this huge porno mustache. And it's almost like he glued it on like that goddamn fake beard David Duchovny has in I Want to Believe. So, and then because this show was made in the 90s, and hey, I get that reference, Peyton says he's a regular Dick Clark. For all of you babies out there who don't know, Dick Clark was the host of a 60s dance show called American Bandstand, and he was also the host of the Rocking New Year. And here's a fun fact. Dick Clark will reappear in the X-Files. Well, appear in the X-Files. In the episode Millennium, where he's counting down the ball drop in Times Square, and Mulder and Scully smooch it up. So, Scully's like, oh, that's fucking weird. So, she gets the guy. She, like, corners him in his apartment. She's, like, holding him there so he won't bolt. And she's like, how do you know when people are gonna die? This again harkens back to the conversation between Clyde Bruckman and Scully, and Clyde Bruckman's final repose. And the old man's like, well, a long time ago, I was a victim of yellow fever, and I was in a hospital contagion ward, and there was this nurse who was taking care of me, and he was just out of his mind with fever. And he's like, I saw death, you know, and he was like going around, you know, taking person by person, and then he came to get me. And when he came to get me, I like covered my face up. I didn't want to look at him. I wanted the nurse to look at him. Put a pin in that. That's very important. So he's like, I did not want to look at death. I wanted it to take this poor innocent woman, and it did. Like, and he says, that's why I live forever, because I missed my chance for death, you know, to take me. And Scully's like, oh, well, that's fucked up. So, they have this really interesting conversation, and the X-Files gets a lot of things wrong, and I mean a lot of things wrong. But one thing they get right is this having characters tell stories. And I still do. I've loved it since I was a kid. I just love sitting around and listening to people tell stories, just tell scary stories. And I mentioned it in my review of Shapes. They like hit that shit. They hit that atmosphere where it's like, this scary old man's telling me the story. And the atmosphere is so good. So, Scully and this old man have this conversation about immortality. And Scully's like, a lot of people would want to live forever. And the old man's like, a lot of people are idiots. I mean, he's a motherfucker, but he's sassy and I love it. So, Scully's like, what about love? Love, capital letters. And, again, like Scully's accepting her role as the believer. She's accepting her romantic feelings for Mulder, and the old man like tells this really sad story about how he went down to the Hall of Records and he was sad he couldn't remember his wife's name. And that's the writing. Vince Gilligan is a fucking good writer. Like, that line fucks me up. Like, that's so sad. Could you imagine that? So he tells her, like, 75 years is all people need. And then he tells Scully, he's like, you're going to want something that everybody else has. I'm like, first of all, guy, don't fucking assume for this woman. Don't mansplain to her. And then, like, Scully says, how can you have enough of life? And she says it in a very wistful way. And this brings up a really interesting point. So, first of all, this motherfucker, when he sees people in mortal peril, he never tries to help them. He just takes the picture because he wants to see death. And he wants death to take him instead of them. And I'm like, okay, so he never stepped in to help these people. Would that have changed? Does he even try to help them? Okay, in all of these years he's been alive. One thing you see about Scully, and I mentioned this in my review of the episode Monday, is she's always changing fate. You see it in Clyde Bruckman's Final Repose. You see it here. Okay? Like, yeah, girls out there. She's changing fate. She's changing destiny. Like, Scully's like, fuck the status quo. I'm gonna do this, So, like, another thing, and this is an argument in the fandom, and about Scully's immortality, is a lot of people say that when Mulder inevitably dies, if Scully is immortal, that she will do something, mess with the alien chip, whatever she has, to kill herself, so she will die along with him. I fucking hate this goddamn theory. First of all, because it feeds into the, Scully can't have anything outside of Mulder, which is fucking disgusting. Okay, the show does that enough, fandom. We don't need to be fucking doing that. The second thing is, people are looking, most media I've seen looks at immortality as a negative thing. And I'm like, why? Like, there's very few examples where immortality is looked at something that could be positive, that could have cons and pros. Groundhog Day does it great. Like, Phil Connors is living the same day over and over again. He's pretty much immortal, okay? Like, he uses that not only to better himself, but to help the people around him, okay? Bicentennial Man with Robin Williams, that's another one that kind of sees it in a glass half full light, where it's like, in Bicentennial Man, if you've never watched it, Robin Williams plays this robot who, like, of course, never ages. And he lives with this human family, and he gets to see, like, the kids grow up, and he gets to see these kids have kids, and their kids have kids, and it's a really wholesome and loving thing. Scully never got to have a normal life. She never got to raise her children. she never got to, you know, have any semblance of a normal life. And if we are to believe the end of My Struggle 4, big eye roll, Mulder and Scully are going to have a baby. And one thing people have pointed out, how sad is it? Like, by the time this child's an adult, let's just say Scully does not have immortality, her and Mulder will be dead when this child grows up. Let's say she has immortality. She's going to watch this beloved child grow up. And she's going to see her child's children, and her child's grandchildren, her child's great-grandchildren. And Scully is a doctor, and she loves helping people. She's going to have all of this wealth of knowledge to share with people. And like, it's like she said, she's like, how can you have enough of living? And it kind of shows like the old man is looking at this with the glass half empty. Dana Scully's looking at it with the glass half full. Are there drawbacks to immortality? Yeah, like she's gonna watch Mulder die. And she loves Mulder, okay? Motherfucker that he is, she loves him. And like, she's going to watch her brothers and her brother's kids die, which is fucking sad. And that's sad, but like, think of the good things that will happen to her that she never got to have as, you know, going on this futile quest with Mulder. Like, she threw her adult life away for that. And now she's going to have a chance, like, to have this very happy, peaceful life with her children and her grandchildren, her great-grandchildren. And I love to think of that. Like, that's just my opinion, but I like to see Dana Scully's immortality with the glass half full. I don't think the fandom does that enough. So then, the old man, like, sees Scully in grayscale. And he says, you know, you're really lucky. Scully gets really scared. She says, I'm not going to die, which is really cool. She doesn't say, like, I'm not going to die now. She's like, I'm not going to die. And I'm like, yeah, girl, we know. So, then the old man's like, make your peace. You will not change fate. And she's like, motherfucker, I'm Dana Scully. Changing fate is all I do. So, they're in the old man's dark room in his apartment, and the curtain comes up, and it's pretty scary. He's like, here he comes. Here comes death. And it's Peyton. Hey, death apparently is a white man. Who's surprised? So, Peyton shoots the old man. You know, that's fucked up. It goes through the old man's camera in a fantastic shot. Holy shit, it's good. And you just see blood pouring out of the camera lens. That's some fantastic cinematography. And it shoots through the old man and into Scully. Scully's dying. Peyton is freaking the fuck out. He goes to get help, and the old man, of course, comes back to life. And he looks at Scully, and he's like, death is coming. He's like, close your eyes. Don't look at him. And it's pretty interesting that Scully doesn't. I mean, Scully does believe the old man. She closes her eyes, which is, again, her coming into this role as the believer. Like, there is a part where she, like, goes to the old man's apartment, and he's telling her this, and she's like, do you expect me to believe you? And he's like, yes, or you wouldn't be here. And that shows, like, Scully is the believer without Mulder's influence. In the same way, Mulder is the skeptic without her influence. And in season 6, you very much see her, and especially in season 7, you see her very much coming into that role. It's not OOC at all when she finally does, you know, in season 8. So, anyway, great shot. You see the old man look up. It's implied he's looking into the face of death. At first, he gets this really just ecstatic expression. He's so happy he's achieved this. Death's going to take him. And then you see a look of just horror come over his face. And I really think he regretted it. You know, like, he keeps telling Scully, like, you don't want to live forever. You don't want this. It's a curse. And then at the end, he's like, I don't want death to take me. This is a Vince Gilligan episode. It's really good. We got to break it down scene by scene. So then you see Scully. She's at the NYU Medical Center. Mulder is ready to fucking throw hands at Ritter. He like is looking through the blinds and he faces him and he's like, "You're a lucky man." Mulder's good in this episode, okay? He's good. He's pretty fucking good. And I love to see a protective Mulder, okay? I know protective Mulder is one of the versions of him that I can stand pretty well. He comes in the hospital room and him and Scully have this adorable little handshake. They like clasp hands and then they kind of have a little thumb war. And there was a joke on Twitter that said, Chris Carter won't let us do anything except hold hands, so we have to do this. And I fucking love that. So, Scully's like, Mulder's like, "I can't believe, you're making this wonderful recovery." And then Mulder mansplains immortality to the immortal woman. Because, with Mulder, you just, you win some and you lose some. That's all I can say. I hate that Mulder gets the last word in this episode. Like, Scully should have been the one, like, talking about it. But Fox, William, mansplain Mulder. It's the second best thing he does besides body shame people. So, that's Tithonus. Let me know your thoughts on Scully's immortality. Let me know your thoughts on this episode. Let me know your thoughts on season 6 or any season. What X-Files episode should I review next? It can be an underrated episode. It can be an overrated episode. What do you want me to talk about? Find me on raccoons_dead on Twitter. You can find me on Tumblr at Just Awful X-Men Art. That's where I post my X-Files fan art and my Warrior Cats fan art and my X-Men fan art. Or, leave a comment below. You can find me on AO3 at Dead Raccoons 13. I will see you later. I hope it's dry where you are. Mwah!